The town that vanished overnight and why no one talks about it. This was a real American town until it wasn't. No residents, no ruins, just a forest where people say they still hear voices at night. In the far reaches of northwestern Connecticut, in a valley shrouded in perpetual shadow known as the Dark Entry Forest, lies what remains of Dudleytown. Today, it is little more than a whisper, an abandoned settlement where only a few traces, like crumbling cellar holes, hint at a past that has been all but erased. Yet, within this desolate beauty, an unnerving silence often descends. A profound quiet where no chirping songbirds, cawing crows, or chattering squirrels break the stillness. A phenomenon reported as far back as the 1960s. It's as if the very air holds its breath, making the forest itself feel watchful, alive with an unseen presence. This eerie absence of tangible evidence paradoxically amplifies the mystery. If clear ruins or historical markers remained, Dudleytown might be a mere historical curiosity. Instead, its near total physical erasure transforms it into something far more potent and intriguing. A town that vanished so completely that its very non-existence sparks a chilling curiosity. How does a place simply disappear from the map, leaving behind only unsettling legends? This profound quiet, this physical void, sets the stage for a narrative where the tangible world of an empty forest clashes with the intangible realm of whispers and unseen forces. It frames the entire story as a quest to uncover secrets from a place that actively resists being known, making the journey itself inherently suspenseful. It is a place infamously known as America's most haunted town, or more chillingly, the Village of the Damned. The very title of this place, and the implied suppression of its story, creates a known unknown. A scenario where something profound is said to have happened, yet the details are shrouded in deliberate mystery. This isn't just abandonment, it's an active erasure, a quality that inherently fuels a deep desire to understand what truly occurred. The seeds of misfortune. To understand how we got here, we must first look back, not just to the founding of this struggling settlement, but to the harsh realities that shaped its earliest days. The area that became known as Dudleytown was never an officially incorporated town, but rather a portion of Cornwall, Connecticut, settled in the early 1740s. Among its earliest residents were Thomas Griffiths and members of the Dudley family, including Gideon, Barzillai, Abiel, and Martin Dudley, alongside other pioneering families. These early settlers attempted to forage a life from the land, cultivating flax, wheat, and corn. However, their efforts were met with relentless adversity. The land itself was not ideally suited for farming, plagued by infertile soil and rocky terrain. Crucially, there were no close sources of water, a devastating challenge for an agriculture community. Winters were brutal, adding another layer of hardship to their already precarious existence. As farming produced difficult, the community turned to timber and charcoal production as primary sources of income. Yet, even with these efforts, the population remained small, peaking at a mere 26 families around 1854. The inherent hardship faced by these early settlers, the poor farming conditions, the lack of water, the brutal winters, would have naturally led to immense stress, desperation, and a higher incidence of accidents or mental distress within the isolated community. This constant mundane struggle provided fertile ground for supernatural explanations to take root. When life is inexplicably hard, a curse offers a terrifying yet definitive explanation, which can be more psychologically manageable than acknowledging random relentless misfortune. The unfavorable agriculture conditions and economic decline directly led to a struggling, isolated, and vulnerable community, which then became highly susceptible to attributing its misfortunes and tragedies to supernatural forces, thereby giving rise and reinforcing the curse legend. By the mid-19th century, the population began its inevitable decline. More fertile and spacious land became available in the Midwest, and the local iron industry, which might have offered alternate employment, began to wind down. This provides a logical, if tragic, explanation for the settlement's eventual abandonment. For a cinematic narrative, it is crucial to establish both this historical truth, the town's struggles due to poor land and economic shifts, and the later supernatural legends. This juxtaposition creates a compelling tension between the rational and the irrational, grounding the story in the very real difficulties of colonial life before introducing the chilling folklore. This approach allows the narrative to appeal to a wider audience, satisfying both those who seek factual explanations and those drawn to the paranormal. The shadow of a name. But what happens next is even stranger. The misfortunes weren't isolated incidents. They became a torrent, driving a community to the brink until the town itself seemed to simply disappear, leaving behind only whispers and a lingering question. Was it a curse or something far more mundane? The very name Dudleytown became synonymous with a chilling legend, a curse supposedly brought across the Atlantic by the Dudley family, stretching back to the 16th century England. The legend claims it began with Edmund Dudley, beheaded for treason under King Henry VIII in 1510. His son, John Dudley, the Duke of Northumberland, also met a grim fate, losing his head after plotting to install Lady Jane Grey as queen. This curse, it was said, brought misfortune, madness, and death upon their descendants, following them even to the isolated valleys of Connecticut. As the settlement struggled, these ancient whispers seemed to manifest in a series of horrifying tragedies. In 1792, Gerson Hollister was allegedly murdered in a home next to Abiel Dudley's, leading his neighbor, William Tanner, to descend into madness, claiming strange animals and demons were responsible. Abiel Dudley himself was said to be the next victim, losing his possessiveness and his mind. The curse supposedly reached beyond the town's borders, as the Nathaniel Carter family, after moving from Dudley to New York, was reportedly slaughtered by Native Americans. General Heman Swift, a Revolutionary War hero, allegedly returned to Dudleytown only to lose his third wife to a lightning strike, subsequently going stark raving mad. The tragedies continued into the late 19th century, with Mary Chanley Greeley, wife of presidential nominee Horace Greeley, supposedly hanging herself in Dudleytown in 1872. Even in the 20th century, the curse seemed to linger. In 1924, after Dr. William Clark bought land there, his wife allegedly went insane upon his return from a business trip, spending the rest of her life in a mental hospital, with some accounts claiming she committed suicide. The last known resident, John Patrick Brophy, reportedly saw his wife die of consumption, his 2 children vanish into the woods, and then disappeared himself, with their house later burning down mysteriously. The sheer volume and dramatic nature of these individual tragedies, even if historically inaccurate, serve a powerful narrative purpose. The concept of a unifying curse transforms a series of isolated misfortunes into a coherent, horrifying saga. It provides a terrifying explanation for events that might otherwise seem random or simply tragic, creating a sense of an active, malevolent force at play, rather than just bad luck. This highlights how human psychology seeks patterns and definitive explanations, especially for traumatic or inexplicable events. A curse offers a complete, albeit supernatural, answer, which can be more emotionally resonant and terrifying than acknowledging the randomness of fate. Adding to the pervasive atmosphere were unnerving environmental reports, the strange, total absence of wildlife, making it feel like the forest itself was watching. This seemed to confirm the curse's grip. A critical turning point in the legend spread came in the early 1970s, when renowned paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren videotaped a Halloween special from Dudleytown, declaring it demonically possessed and controlled by something terrifying. Their public pronouncements, given their profile, significantly amplified the legends beyond local whispers, drawing widespread national attention and solidifying Dudleytown's reputation as a truly haunted place. This public declaration led to a surge in interest and an influx of thrill-seeking ghost hunters, which in turn led to more reported incidents and, eventually, the need for stricter access control to the area. The Vanishing Act. But what happens next is even stranger. The misfortunes weren't isolated incidents. They became a torrent, driving a community to the brink, until the town itself seemed to simply disappear, leaving behind only whispers and a lingering question. Was it a curse or something far more mundane? The exodus was swift. By the late 1800s, Dudleytown was completely abandoned. Some accounts even claim the last family either vanished or perished by 1900. Legends of malevolent entities, strange creatures, and demonic possession persisted, with the chilling idea that the dark entry forest itself might have driven people to madness. However, a crucial counter-narrative exists, challenging these supernatural claims with historical facts. Historians and genealogists, including Reverend Gary P. Dudley, a descendant of the Dudleytown Dudleys, have found no direct link between the Dudleytown settlers and the English noblemen beheaded for treason. This directly refutes the foundational element of the curse. The sheer volume of individual tragedies attributed to the curse serves a powerful narrative function. The extensive efforts to debunk these claims reveal a historical revisionism, where the factual truth is less sensational but far more complex. Specific examples highlight this divergence. Gershon Hollister did not die from murder, but fell from a rafter during a barn raising. The tragedy involving Nathaniel Carter's family happened a long way from Dudleytown, at the forks of the Delaware wilderness, and his children actually survived. General Heman Swift never resided in Dudleytown. He lived to 81 and also experienced senility in his later years. Mary Shanae Greeley never lived anywhere in Cornwall, including Dudleytown. Her family resided in Litchfield. The dramatic story of Dr. William Clark's wife going insane and his leaving Cornwall is largely fabricated. Dr. Clark continued to live in Cornwall, and his wife's death was likely from natural causes or suicide, not supernatural madness. The account of John Brophy, the Irish laborer, is an exaggeration of common misfortunes of the 1800s, such as consumption, sun stealing, and a house fire, none of which were supernatural. The fundamental reason for the abandonment was the land's unsuitability for farming, described as terrible for farming with rocky and swampy land, infertile soil, and no close sources of water. As better agriculture opportunities arose in the Midwest and local industries declined, people simply moved for better prospects. Many of the sensational legends actually originated or were amplified in the 1920s during the spiritualism movement, suggesting they were fabricated or embellished for entertainment. Starr's History of Cornwall is specifically cited as the basis for many fanciful accounts that have been repeatedly retold and embellished. The research presents a compelling contradiction: the dramatic, supernatural abandonment versus the mundane economic reasons. The curse narrative serves as a powerful example of how folklore can arise from genuine hardship and then be amplified and embellished over time, particularly by figures like the Warrens or authors like Starr. The extensive debunking efforts reveal a historical revisionism, where the factual truth is less sensational but far more complex. This constant tension between fact and legend creates a fascinating dynamic, inviting an audience to question what they believe. The question of why no one talks about it is complex. It's not solely a cover-up in the traditional sense. It is also due to the inherent obscurity of a settlement that was never a formal town, leading to scarce or unreliable historical records. Furthermore, the debunking efforts by local historical societies and even a Dudley descendant suggest a deliberate attempt to correct the narrative, not suppress it. However, the persistence of the sensationalized legend, despite these corrections, is itself an intriguing phenomenon. This implies that the silence might be a complex mix of historical obscurity, the sealed gates. But if the town vanished, and the curse was largely debunked by historical facts, why does the mystery persist? Why, even today, is this seemingly ordinary patch of forest guarded with such ferocity, as if protecting a secret far darker than any ghost story? The land formerly occupied by Dudleytown was purchased in the mid-1920s by the Dark Entry Forest Association, a private land trust. Their stated purpose was reforestation and conservation, aiming to restore the forest ecosystem. However, the site is unequivocally not open to the public, and the association strictly enforced trespassing bans. The Cornwall Historical Society explicitly warns that Dark Entry Forest Dudleytown is private property. The people who live there do not appreciate trespassers wandering about their backyards. Just as with any other private property, trespassers will be arrested. Concrete examples abound of trespassers being apprehended, adding a layer of real-world tension to the mystery. In July 2012, 2 young Connecticut residents turned themselves in after allegedly trespassing in May, looking for thrills, and were subsequently charged with burglary and criminal trespassing. YouTubers and movie makers have been arrested for trespassing in this area, and one Reddit user recounted receiving a trespassing ticket in the mail after a visit. Police are known to patrol the main road leading into the area, stopping and finding people, often waiting for them to emerge from the woods before confronting them. This intense secrecy and aggressive enforcement by the Dark Entry Forest Association, coupled with the reported lack of public records like tax documents or surveys, paradoxically amplifies the mystery surrounding Dudleytown rather than suppressing it. If the association were more transparent about its activities and ownership, this constant, forceful guarding of the land creates a perception of a cover-up or hidden truth, which, in turn, fuels curiosity and illegal trespassing. An intriguing connection exists between the Dark Entry Forest Association and local government. Individuals like Alan G. Herkimer III, who officially represented the association, also served as justices of the peace in Cornwall, suggesting a tightly interwoven group guarding the woods. While official reasons for the restriction cites vandalism and trespassers as primary concerns, along with visitor safety due to the remote location, unofficial local sentiment reveals deep frustration. Many locals view trespassers as out-of-town nuisances who do not respect their property, complaining about noisy hoarders, discarded beer cans, and tour buses. Perhaps the true course of Dudleytown isn't a supernatural entity, but the chilling silence it leaves behind, a silence that begs the question: what secrets does a vanished town truly hold, and what happens to those who dare to listen too closely?